When I got back in the water, I could say that I kind of felt like there were times where I owned the ocean, even though I know that's not even possible because Hawaii just humbled me.
Hey guys, and aloha. It's Mark Sorichu, your host of the Christian Surfers podcast, Talk Story, where we talk Jesus and talk with surfers that love Jesus. Please tune in to hear some amazing stories of faith and the kingdom, and we'll see you soon. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, welcome to the Christian Surfers Talk Story podcast episode with the one, the only surf legend of the Outer Banks, OBX here in North Carolina, Noah Snyder. Happy 20th anniversary of Noah's Ark.
I know.
Are you that old?
I am that old. It seems like yesterday we were just going out on the bus to do the tour. My boy had just been born, and we were hitting the road with Noah's Ark.
Your first?
Yeah.
How old is he now?
20.
There you go.
There you go.
20th anniversary. That's like, when you know.
It seems like it's gone by like that.
Yeah. Incredible. Time flies. Who was on that tour? Was that Brian Jennings, Matt Beecham?
Yep, the whole crew. Mike Doyle, even
Jesse
some of the
Hines.
Steel Roots crew.
Oh, gee.
They were doing, we were touring with those guys, doing their TV series that they did on like sports athletes. But
was that a show on Fox or what?
It was out of, I believe, Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was a podcast. It was basically like a Christian broadcast, and they were doing surfers, skaters, BMX, the whole 9 yards, and they were focusing on all the Christian athletes to try to just drive home the fact of, why do you need Jesus? And
getting your testimonies out there.
Exactly.
And stories.
Yeah.
We need to bring back Steel Roots or another version of, media platform. And I guess it's Instagram now, but, and everyone's kind of got their own channels now. Mm-hmm. Media's just changed so much, right? Social media and all that. We were just talking about that, setting up for this at your beautiful home here in the Outer Banks with your wife earlier. Thank you so much for having us over, Noah. Mm-hmm. I know we've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while. You're very busy.
Yeah.
And Chris is helping us out again behind the scenes. There you go. We love you, Carissa. You are amazing. The best wife for Noah.
I am.
She is.
And I want to talk about a couple things today. Obviously, your story, but you've got some beautiful art pieces that I didn't even know that you did art. I was just in Uncle Lynn Shell's shop here last year during the Outer Banks. Every year, you have us in your hometown. Thank you for letting all the Christian surfers come here. You host the camp out at your church every year. It's pretty awesome, and you share your waves with us. Your amazing waves up here in the Outer Banks, and so thank you for letting us do that. I was just talking to Casey Cruciano about it. I think they've been doing it for over 10 years. So appreciate you letting us crowd your breaks once a year.
It's all good. The breaks here really don't get crowded unless you're going down south. And it used to be everybody would see my car back in the day, but now they're looking.
That's when they knew where the sandbar was, right?
Yeah, now they're looking for Brett's car.
They're looking for Brett's car.
The baton has been passed.
You don't have that pressure. Did you ever camouflage I'm sure you talked about Noah's Ark. Did you ever have to cover your car in towels?
We never camouflaged, but we always talked about, hey, let's park your car way up the beach.
So people can see it.
And then we'll come back in my car and we'll surf down here.
There you go.
But we never
throw people off.
Yeah. But we never did. It was a great thought, but we never actually did it.
Got it. So brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, if you see Noah's car, let him be. Just let him get his waves and look for Brett's car. So we'll get the text from Noah later what kind of car he drives, make, model, license plate, all that. So
yeah, sorry, Brett. I just threw you under the bus.
That's all right. Brett. He's you're in the New Surfers Bible, as you know, so you're already going to get blown up there. But the good thing about up here, and this is probably only my third or fourth time up here, Noah, but you've just got miles and miles of beach. Mm-hmm. So versus just here, we're here in El Salvador at one crowded Point Break or something like that. I feel like people can kind of spread out here.
Yeah, you really can go find your own spot anywhere. And you basically have between Kerala and Hatteras, you have like 60 miles.
Wow.
Where you can pull over pretty much anywhere. I mean, if you're up in Kerala and Duck, parking up there can be a little bit limited. But once you get down on Hatteras Island, as long as you don't pull over and get stuck, you're pretty much good to go.
Got it. Well, you got to have your 4x4. If you're looking for a local guide for a couple $1,000, this is your guy right here that you want to hire. It's cute. Just buy him some coffee or some food for his beautiful family. But were you born and raised in the Outer Banks? Because I remember watching the Ozark, I think for my first time 20 years ago. And I had never really heard about the Outer Banks. I was pretty new in my surfing. But in terms of the East Coast, I mean, it's some of the best waves, right?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely get the most, I don't want to say powerful, because there's some other places on the East Coast that get pretty powerful too, but consistency and powerful, and with the size, we're up there in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of conditions. Of course, the sandbars here are always changing. Unlike some other places where you get up into like Nova Scotia and stuff, you got more of point breaks and all that kind of stuff, and
more nooks and crannies.
Like Jersey and Ocean City, Maryland have a lot more jetties and different things. We just have like the one jetty at the lighthouse, and it's pretty beat up. But that is the beauty. Probably the pros and the cons of this place is that you get great surf, but you have to work for it. You have to find it. You have to search it out, and then next week that could be gone.
Right. So you just grew up constantly chasing,
always
that perfect peak or finding the best spot.
Yeah, but back to you were asking about being born here and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't born here. I was actually born in Baltimore, Maryland. But when I was 6 months old, my parents moved here. My dad fell in love with the place, and he never went back. So I guess you could say I'm stuck here on purpose.
Well, you stayed, and now you've got your beautiful wife, Chris, and you guys are raising your family here. And it's a really special place. You feel like you're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, which you are. You're, huge mass bodies of water here called the Sound. And you're just on these, you kind of forget you're on these outer islands. They're just kind of all linked together. Really probably touristy, in the summer, but pretty much only locals in the winter. Is that how you would describe this place?
Pretty much. I mean, over the years, it's become... And especially after COVID, it's become a place where there's been a lot of people that have made their way here and decided, you know what, I want to live here. This place is awesome. It is
if they can work remote.
Yeah, if you can work remote, if you can have 2 or 3 jobs.
Make it work.
If you can endure the wintertime here in February. So that's always kind of a standard. Like, if you can make it through an Outer Banks winter and you're not like... terrified
or completely frozen,
then you could probably live here.
Okay, got it. So you got some thick skin and probably some thick neoprene.
Yes, you got to have both.
How cold are we talking?
I mean, that's why I had to bring in Carissa, my wife. She's from Minnesota, and
she's cold-blooded.
The cold up there is beyond cold. So for her, the transition was easy.
That was easy. Well, being from Grand Forks, North Dakota, I could not pull what you guys have pulled off for Carissa. I've lost my cold-bloodedness, but so it's beautiful at times, but it can also be harsh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How cold are we talking here in the winters?
I mean, the coldest water that I probably surfed in was about 34 degrees.
So just above freezing.
Yeah, and it was snowing. It had been one of the coldest winters we've had in a while. And I think the day that we went surfing, it was like maybe 19 or 20 degrees. Snow still on the beach. Yeah. And that was, for me, like the coldest outside of Nova Scotia water that I had been in. So it usually hovers in the mid-40s in the dead of winter. And so 4-3 at a minimal, but you're more than likely 5-4-3, gloves, boots, hood.
Everything.
And you're only going to last a little while.
Right. So even if you had all the right gear, how long is the average surf session? You still get cold after an hour or two?
Yeah. I mean, you're after about 2 hours, you're pretty done.
Yeah.
And
it's a lot of rubber you're paddling around.
Yeah. So your body's just expending so much energy from keeping warm to your metabolism is firing to keep the body going. And then of course, all that rubber is like a constant, like, you're going against the grain of just being in trunks.
Yeah.
So your body's expending a lot of energy. So at the end of 2 hours and for us, when we get like the good surf, there's always current. Very rare do we not have some sort of north to south current or vice versa.
So you got a treadmill that you're fighting against.
So you're constantly just paddling and like, battling the elements. After 2 hours, if you're still going, you're good.
Yeah. This is why Noah Snyder is always in shape. Is that kind of why you started the gym here? And is it surf training? Are you training surfers? What's the name of the place and where did the idea come from?
Well, the gym now is called Momentum Fitness and Jiu-Jitsu. Back in the day, it was just the surf boot camp, and then it transformed into Momentum Fitness. And then along the way, once we got further down the road, it went to Momentum Fitness and Jiu-Jitsu. But I got hurt early on in my surf career, surfing Porto Escondido. Tried to come out of a backside barrel. Wave was probably about 8 foot, and I tried to doggy door it. And I caught the lip on the head that power drove me through my surfboard. Ooh. Shattered all my ligaments and tendons in my ankle. And Porto sent me home just like hurt and injured.
What year was that?
Wow. I can't even remember. But it was like, I had only been, I want to say I was like 24 or 25.
Okay.
And so long story short, as I know we got a lot of ground to cover, I came home, rested a month, tried to go back out in the water surfing. My ankle was like, no. Went to the only place I knew to go, which back in the day it was called Hammerhead's Gym. Here. And walked in there and I'm like, hey, this is my deal. I surf. I can't hardly surf. I hurt my ankle. And they were like, you need to go see that guy. And I looked over the corner and there's this big, jacked, 200-pound guy. Lo and behold, he had a great heart. Thank goodness, because I was a little bit terrified to go say hi to him. But they're like, he'll take care of you. Yeah, and like an MMA his name was Gene Flynn, chiropractor. He basically took me under his wing, got me back on track. He was into strength training and conditioning because he was a full-on athlete. And he got me back in the water. And after 3 months of training with him, I saw such a just amazing difference in how I felt in the water that I was like, this is a game changer. And so that really pushed me into the realm of fitness, even more so because I was never like, I always felt like the ocean always kind of owned me. Yeah. But after going through 3 months of crazy training, he changed my diet, nutrition, just my workout schedule, everything. But when I got back in the water, I could say that I kind of felt like there were times where I owned the ocean, even though I know that's not even possible because Hawaii just humbled me. Yeah. But I felt strong and I felt different, and that was the game changer.
Wow. So you were injured, and it brought you to ground zero, and then you kind of rebuilt from there, but it opened your eyes and your mind to like basically being fit for yourself in the best shape that you possibly could be, but then helping others do that as well.
Exactly.
So that, even though obviously, Mother Nature and God's creation, but being in control of what we have and what we can do with our body, with the diet and the fitness, and just, I guess, being prepared what the most we could be prepared on our end for what conditions might be thrown at us.
Okay, recording.
Every surfer and every surfing community should have the opportunity to know and follow Jesus.
That's why we want to share with you an exciting new project.
The Surfer's Bible!
The Surfer's Bible won't just be in printed form, but it'll also be digital.
And this will include testaments, devotionals, and reading plans, all online and consistently updated.
As part of the global movement, you can make this fantastic idea a reality.
For as little as $10, you can get a printed Bible in the hands of a surfer who has never read one before.
That's a Bible in the hands of a surfer at the local beaches.
Lives will be changed and hearts will be softened.
For every surfer!
I think we did it.
We did it. Phil?
Are we done or are we...
And how long have you been running Momentum?
We established Momentum in 2012.
Okay.
And then we got
a good number.
A brick and mortar place in 2016. And that was shortly after the whole Nike Hurley thing, sports marketing. It was all kind of like heading out the window.
Yeah,
and,
when Hurley was selling to Nike.
Yeah, and kind of the writing was on the wall. And I had been with Hurley forever, and
since you were a Grom.
Since they first started.
So
yeah,
Uncle
I was
Bob.
with Bob Hurley since I was like 13.
Wow.
So we'll give you guys a little bit of history here. And the Billabong days, Paul Gomez, they were doing these contest series out here on the East Coast, and I did really well. And they kind of noticed me, and they were like, "Okay, let's go ahead and grab them. Let's pick them up." And that kind of continued on. And then I turned pro, and about that time, it was maybe a year or two later. Or right about, it might have been about the same time, they were like, "Hey, we're going to form Hurley." And I was just like, okay. And I thought about it for a little bit, and I knew that Bob was a really smart businessman.
Yeah.
And they were like, "You can stay here or you can come form something new." And just the thought of doing something new and different appealed to me. So I was like, "I'll go. Let's go. Let's do this."
Did you know that Bob and Paul were believers back then?
I knew that Bob was. I wasn't totally sure about Paul Gomez.
Yeah.
But I had a feeling those guys were so close that I'm sure that they had those conversations.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And just thankful to those guys because they poured into me. They believed in me. And they gave me a great platform to do what I loved. And I just tried to do it to the best of my ability and represent them as best I could.
Yeah. You were such a good role model for their brand, and obviously they've been very generous with Christian surfers as well, in support and prayer. But I remember when you would go on tour with the film, and all the posters, it was, I think you in a right hand barrel, I want to say, and I just remember there were just Hurley posters. You have the sticker on the nose, and that's what you would kind of autograph. And I remember getting one of those when I was younger, and it was just, for me, it was like, as a Christian surfer, I wanted to, one, support Noah and your family and just being one of the heroes of our sport. But it made me want to support Hurley because, I knew that you rode for them for so long, which is really cool. And, in hearing that Bob and his family were believers and all that. So that is.
But it was
cool.
It was a sad departure when I knew the time was coming. For my days at Hurley were ending. Yeah. Because it was such an awesome company to be a part of and ride for. And, but it opened up the next chapter, which sometimes for us to get to the next chapter, you literally have to be pushed out of the nest.
God closes other chapters.
So I remember having the conversation with Pat O'Connell, and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "You got a year."
Okay. You got a year left.
You got a year left. And then...
At least Pat, you gave you the heads up, I guess.
Yeah, so thankful to Pat for just being honest with me and giving me that opportunity. And so I took that year, still had to do all my Hurley stuff, but they were like, you're going to have some freedom, so you'll have the opportunity to whatever you want to dive into next. And the Momentum was kind of already en route, but I was able to really dive in, and then literally the contract ended, and then we got our brick and mortar location. And then of course, 6 months later, nobody prepares you for this. We got flooded by Hurricane Matthew.
Oh, wow.
So everything that I had worked for, my business partner and I, completely just
went up and
flooded.
Smoke.
Yeah. I mean, I remember just wading down the street in chest deep water and looking at my gym going, this is not going to be good.
Right.
And then getting to the doors. And I have photos and stuff of all this if you need it, but just devastating.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Do you have to have business insurance or something like that?
We had flood insurance.
Okay.
But the very last page in there, and this is where insurance companies get you, there was a clause that says if the water comes in through the doors, not the roof, comes in from the underground, you're not covered.
Huh.
And that's how the water came in. So basically I was told if I would have punched a hole in the roof,
you would have been covered.
Then I would have been covered. Yeah, so
crazy.
We went from already being in debt from buying all the equipment to now having to get all new equipment. And it was just a double whammy.
Because everything was just destroyed. So you started over essentially twice.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. We were able to salvage some equipment, but everything took such a loss that it was just like, wow, here we go. And so it was definitely a lot of faith and a lot of prayers and tears and just, pacing through it all. And just.
But you stuck with it. You still have it. Oh, yeah. Even after such a rough start.
I mean, I was just such a believer in the whole fitness thing where I was like, man, I wanted to see people get their lives back. And then,
physically.
And we started seeing that even before the brick and mortar location. People were just like, this is something different. Because we did bring a spiritual component to Momentum, which was we prayed before our classes. We were an open book to all of our members. And we just said, hey, we don't have this thing totally figured out, but we know truth. And we want to speak the truth, share the truth. And from there, it's up to you to make it your own and to work out your own salvation. But we just wanted to be the platform to help people achieve life and life to the full.
Wow, that's amazing, Noah. So God kind of closing that chapter with Hurley and your professional surfing career, and then essentially becoming an entrepreneur and opening up a business that you're passionate about. So if you guys are out there and you got a dad bod like me, and you want to work that off because you've got 2 little kids, or my wife always says moment on the lips, forever on the hips now, and you feel it when you turn 48. But sign up with Noah to get in shape spiritually and physically. What's the website or Instagram for the gym?
It's just momentumobx.com. Okay. And that will get you to the site. And jiu-jitsu was something that my business partner, his brother, was really good at.
Okay.
And so the place that we were going to close down. And so we were like, well, why don't we just open it here? And that was a whole nother can of worms that just went really well, and people were stoked on it. And you learn something that, number one, could change your life forever, but also too, my business partner said to me, he's like, what would you do if somebody approached you and you were with your family and, they were trying to harass you? How would you protect yourself, if you didn't have a weapon?
Right.
And I was like, and it just got me thinking about it.
Wow.
And then one day I was like, all right, let me give this a shot. I had my preconceived notions about jiu-jitsu and that whole world. But
MMA,
once I went and tried it, it was like a game changer. And I realized wow, this is good to know. Even if you only know a little bit, it can help you, or you could help somebody out potentially. So we just incorporated that into Momentum, and it's been a good thing. So now we have an adults program, a kids program, and it's going really well. So
all families, all ages, jiu-jitsu and fitness. You are automatically hired to train my girls to qualify for the CT. I'll tell Lydia and the girls when I get home. And I love the name Noah. I put you in a group chat, probably unwillingly, but I was watching Momentum Generation with Kelly and all the guys on HBO Max with Lydia, and I was trying to explain to her who everyone was, Taylor Knox and Rob Machado and Taylor Steele and Benji, Ross Williams, the whole crew. And then over the years, I would just, even though I learned to surf late, in life, but I would just I'd see you at Surf Expo, and I'd see Matt Beecham, who was on staff with us for a little bit. And then now living in Florida, after leaving California for a couple of years, living near Flagler now, running into Will Tant, and being part of the contest the last couple of years for the Tommy Tapp Memorial with American Surf Mag, and getting to know Cat Solis now in Jacksonville and all that crew. I'm like, yeah, these guys are kind of the Christian version of Momentum Generation. So I was like, I'm going to create a group with Noah, Beecham, Brian Jennings, the whole Will, Jesse Hines, the whole crew, and be like, you guys are the Christian version of Momentum Generation. And I love that your gym is called that, because you guys have been a hero of the faith to so many of us. Because I think back now, the great thing about the Christian Surfers Bible is, we definitely have updated some testimonies, and God still has his hand in the surfing world. Obviously, we've always been the minority, but there are still Christians and Jesus followers that are professional surfers. But you, CJ, Damien, you guys are some of the OGs. And so thank you for doing that, and always being outspoken about your faith and your love for Jesus, and never shying away from that. And I know that probably hurt your sponsorship at some point. It probably wasn't easy to be like that as an athlete.
Honestly, the thought went through my head in the beginning because I got saved right when I turned pro. And everybody's like, oh, if you tell them about Jesus, you're going to lose all your sponsors and this and that. And I was like, thought about it, prayed about it. And then one day I was looking out at the ocean and it was crowded. And God spoke very clearly to me. He was like, because I had always saw crowded lineups as like a bad thing. But God was like, this is your witness field.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay. It just changed my perspective on it. And
harvest is plentiful.
And so it was like, now I can't explain what happened when I got saved, except that it was, it transformed my life tremendously.
So you didn't grow up a Christian.
No.
For those out there who haven't seen Noah's Ark yet.
Yeah. Now my wife, she grew up in the church, pastor's kid, saw the whole good, bad, the ugly through all that stuff. Because churches aren't perfect, know, and a lot of them
full of broken people.
A lot of them are very dysfunctional. But I came from the opposite, where it was just scrambling for my life. I grew up in a divorced family at 5, and so I, was kind of back and forth with my mom and dad, and then surfing with my dad was kind of when I moved in with him at 12.
Is that how you learned through your dad?
Yeah. I mean, he tried to get me to surf when I was 9, and I was not having it. I basically cried my way back to the beach, and then years later, it was same board, same beach, everything, and everything aligned. But what a gift surfing has been. But when I got saved, it was just this moment where I realized, wow, the God that I always envisioned as being against me is actually for me. And so when it came to the sponsorship part of it, I'm like, Lord, you're with me. This is what your word says.
Yeah.
And, if that's the case, then who can be against me? And so I was like,
Amen.
You didn't just save me to be quiet. You didn't just save me to be put on the shelf and that was it. So I had to be a little more selective in my later days of how I shared my faith in different things, because some people it was just I came at them so aggressively at first that they were just kind of put off by it, instead of coming at them in love and just really trying to find out where they were at first, before I started to jam it down their throat. And I think that's the key, is you got to build trust with people. You got to find out what is their story.
You were just on fire, passionate.
I was just on fire. So but when it came to sponsorship, I'm like, Lord, I know you want to take me on this journey, because you spoke to me about the witness field, and it was just very obvious. So I wasn't shy about my faith, and the contracts came, and they weren't huge, but they were enough to make it, go do what I loved, and
travel
on every trip. I looked forward to, God, who are you putting in my path? Who do you want me to share your love with? And so that was my mission on every trip.
Yeah. Can you, and you had the perfect name for Noah's Ark. no pun intended. And funny that you ended up with that name, not coming from a Christian family or being a pastor's kid.
Well, I can tell you what my dad wanted to name me.
What do you want to name me?
Caesar.
Caesar. We'll go with Noah.
Yeah. So Mr. Snyder. Thank you, Dad, for not naming
God bless
me
you,
Caesar.
Mr. Snyder. Oh man, yes, slightly better name than Caesar. And it just kind of, and God obviously knew your name in your heart and every hair on your head before you were even born, or even a thought in your parents' mind. So pro surfing career with Hurley, getting injured, becoming an entrepreneur and business owner despite losing everything and having to rebuild, and then staying put here in the Outer Banks where it's cold and harsh. And when you were sharing that earlier, and I was thinking in my head, I've always told people anyone can kind of surf in Hawaii and Southern California, but when you're surfing places like this year round, where PNW, Pacific Northwest or Northeast, like those are the Nova Scotia. Those are like the real surfers. Those guys are hardcore. It's you're not just throwing on your bikini and your boardies and going out there. You guys deal with a lot of the elements here.
Hey, are you a young, frothing surfer who loves catching waves and sharing your faith with others? Do you want to make a difference in your surfing community and help others discover Jesus? Then you need to join Sea-Salt, the Christian Surfers Advanced Leadership Training Program. Sea-Salt is a program designed specifically for young surfers who want to develop their leadership skills, grow in their faith, and serve practically on the ground in existing surfing communities. You'll get to go on road trips, learn about theology and mission, and have loads of fun with other young surfers who share your passion for Jesus and the ocean. Sign up for Sea-Salt today.
Where did the whole art thing come from? How'd you get? It seems like you got like 8 jobs here, just hustling, making ends meet, and raising the family and providing.
It's kind of a long story, so I'll try to summarize it. But basically, my dad was an artist
And a surfer.
Yeah. And I could tell he really wanted me to be an artist, because he's always like, art, he goes, it's cool, and girls like art and all that stuff. So he's trying to like persuade me, and but I just like my mind was so set on surfing out of high school, and I took art classes in high school, but I wasn't good. Yeah. I mean, I could sketch a little, but
you're better than my stick figures.
Yeah. But surfing took off, and then kind of there was no thought of art. Period. But I do remember being on like that boat trip with Bob Hurley when we went to Endo and sketching on the boat, and Bob was like, came over and looked at it, goes, man, goes, there's something there, because it needs a little polishing, but
kind of what Chandler said to Rick Kane in North Shore.
Stick with it. And, but I didn't stick with it. And then it was right around when COVID hit. My wife and I had a furniture business where I would help her make it. She would polish it out. She would put all the finishing touches on it, but nobody wanted to buy it for what it was worth. They all wanted to buy like Walmart price stuff.
Yeah.
But I had gotten into like burning a couple of the tabletops with the fractal burning and all that kind of stuff. And
wow.
She was like, it looks cool, but nobody wants to buy this. She's like, quit burning my stuff. Go do something artsy with it. And that was kind of the conversation where she's like, yeah, it just looks more artsy. She goes, people do art and throw it up on the wall, and then they charge way more than what we can make. And I think she kind of said that like in kind of like a joking way, not really thinking that I was going to take it like to the heart.
Yeah.
And then that same day I found this piece of wood, was looking at it and saw the grains in the wood, and I was like, oh, this kind of looks like a wave. So I burn it, do a little paint on it, and was like, whoa, there's something to this.
Yeah.
And I showed her, and she's like, okay. She goes, do another one. And so I did another one. And then it was my third piece. I did this turtle, and she came home and she was like, her jaw dropped, and she was just like, babe, did you know you could do this? And I was just like, no.
Wow.
And
was it this turtle here?
Wasn't that one.
Okay.
But I can show you the other one. And and I can look back now on that turtle and be like, ooh, I would have probably done things differently. But at the time, it was just like, it kind of like really it came alive. And I was like, whoa, there's something here. And I've never been this passionate about art. But all of a sudden, like, it was this passion that began to like burn inside me. So I see it like to kind of come full circle is the gift came full circle. Like the gift was there.
Yeah.
Like God planted that gift, and my dad, his granddad. So the gifting was there. It just took a long time to have it resurface.
Of course, yeah.
And now, 6 years later, it's like I'm doing stuff like that and other stuff, and everybody's like, oh, you must have done this your whole life. And the truth is I haven't.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing it on mugs now too. You guys can see that right there on YouTube land. Beautiful mug with the waves and the turtle right there on a mug. We bought one, I think, at Outer Banks Sporting Company, Uncle Lynn's shop. Where can you buy it online? Where can you Is it a virtual gallery, or do you have a gallery here in town?
Yeah, so that's where this is. So it's a virtual gallery that you can get on metal prints, canvas prints, mugs, tote bags, iPhone cases. You can go select any image, and view it on the gallery in there, and then get whatever you want and order it. And
what's the website?
NoahSnyderArt.com.
NoahSnyderArt.com.
And then that has allowed me to kind of focus more on customs and original stuff.
Got it.
Because it's kind of like a fulfillment center. And
pretty cool.
Yeah, so the wife's helping me, and so we're kind of really putting a lot of emphasis on the art. But it's a gift that, like I said, came out of nowhere.
Amazing.
God opened the door, and I've just been walking through it. So it's almost like this is the next chapter. I'm still a part of the gym. I still love the gym, all that kind of stuff. But it seems like there's more emphasis now on the art. And I still teach at the gym and all that, but I've definitely taken a little bit of a step back, as far as that goes. But, God kind of has me in two places.
All right.
So I'm just trying to be obedient to what he has. And, and it's exciting. It's a little bit, nervous at times, just because sometimes you don't know when your next sale is coming.
It's like being a realtor.
Yeah. So it really is a walk of faith and just trusting. But I'm just trusting, Lord, you've led me to this point, and I'm just going to continue on until you move me somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful pieces, and you have that talent, and we love our piece that we have in our house at home in Florida. So if you guys are in the Outer Banks, make sure you DM Noah on Instagram or go NoahSnyderArt.com, check it out, and order a custom piece for him, or go by Uncle Lynn's surf shop and pick up some art there. I got to see you and Carissa and she's an artist herself. She's a musician and worship leader, and love that you guys are both artists. And I'm watching you serve too, Noah's Ark. 20 years ago when I first saw, I just remember he's like an artist on the wave. Just like your surfboard was kind of like your paintbrush, and just watching your turns and watching your carves, and you're just such an amazing tube rider too. The way that you would just read your lines, I was like, that is really hard, especially in just beach breaks. It's easier at a point break or reef because the wave's pretty much more similar each time. But here it's just each wave is just. I was surfing Jeanette's Pier just yesterday with Casey, and I was struggling because I'm almost 50 now, and getting my feet, in the fast punch, it just comes in really fast and just kind of throws once it hits that inside sandbar. So you got to get up to your feet quick. But I always felt like you were an artist on the waves in the ocean as well, and now you're that physical artist producing art for other people. And God's the greatest artist, right? And you are his artwork, and you are his craftsmanship. But you kind of got celebrated for all this, and your surfing career. East Coast Hall of Fame earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, at Surf Expo in Orlando. You guys literally flew in for your induction. I think Damo got inducted, I think last year, and CJ maybe a few years ago, but it was so cool to see your name on the list. And I was there at the show, and Christian Surfers usually goes and serves at Surf Expo. With amazing guys like Roy Turner, who's the EVP of the show, lets us have a booth there and a tent there with all the other nonprofits like Right Nature and a lot of great organizations and groups. It was so cool to see you up there, Noah, getting inducted into the East Coast Hall of Fame. What was that like for you? And I loved that you were just open about your life and the faith again.
It was pretty nerve-wracking.
Were you? Were you nervous?
Oh yeah. Like public speaking is not my most favorite thing to do. But shortly after I got saved, the pastor.
You had to get used to it.
The pastor in my church was always calling on me to give a testimony. And I just found myself sitting further back in church. Going, okay, he's wearing glasses. I know he can't see me.
He's hiding in the hood.
But he was always calling on me.
With the hood.
So yeah. Leading up to that moment, it was pretty nerve-wracking, but once I got up and kind of began to share just a snippet of the things that were highlights in my life, it was just like, wow, like what an amazing opportunity, what an honor.
Yeah.
And it was just such a humbling experience to be up there with all those other guys and legends and people that have paved the way. And, because honestly, I wouldn't have been up there if it wasn't for that generation.
Before you. Yeah.
Recognizing that, that I was a generation to really help Brett and Will Dean and all these other guys.
The younger guys now. Yeah.
So it's just, it was just really a recognition of the chapters that I had been a part of and some chapters that were still unfolding. But the whole experience was just, it was surreal. It was almost like, is this really happening? But just being able to see like David Spear and Matt Keckley and
the OGs,
and the Hobgoods and like, Bob Hurley was there for a little bit. And just reconnecting with these guys that I did so much life with.
In the past, yeah.
But the word itself was just an honor to get, and almost didn't feel worthy.
Yeah.
It just kind of is what it is. But it was such a special moment, and
definitely well deserved, Noah. Though,
yeah,
and it was so good to see you up there, and so we're all just so proud of you. And especially I think for us, we're about the same age. Our generation. When I think Outer Banks, I think of you, Jesse Hines, and now Brett Barley. But you paving that way again, just like you were saying for these guys, in a place that's not an easy place to live year round. Might be easy to come here and visit and do some strike missions and all that, but to like just some of the challenges that you were sharing earlier in the podcast, to live here year round, you've got to be a little raw and rugged to make it through the winters. What can we, as we kind of close it down here on the podcast, but what can we be expecting from Noah Snyder in the next 5 to 10 years from now? The 40th anniversary of Noah's Ark. We're going to go back on tour.
Back on tour. Kelly's amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
Just 50 and still paving the way.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know what the next chapters are going to bring. As of right now, just taking it day by day and trying to do my best with what the Lord has put in front of me, to be faithful with it. And, whatever comes from that, I'm kind of an open book. But it's exciting. It's scary in some ways. But I think that's part of the journey with the Lord, is just learning to trust Him, walk with Him, letting Him do what He is capable of doing, and to kind of get out of the way and really let those things unfold and just walk with Him. And if you do that, because life is crazy. I mean, all the stuff going on right now and all the stuff that
the world
is thrown at, like, especially this next generation of kids and stuff.
You
gotta have something
youth.
solid in your life.
Gotta have a foundation. Yeah. Thank you, Noah. How can we be praying for you and Carissa and your beautiful family? And how do people stay in touch with you guys? How do they follow you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you can contact us through Instagram, Facebook, all those social media stuff, which is a love-hate relationship.
It is.
But prayers would just be, for the family, our kids, that they would just continually grow up in this crazy world and be healthy. And then, of course, for the art, just to keep blossoming. And, and then all the people that have been affected by all the hurricanes and stuff. It's just,
that's right.
Being flooded back in 2016.
Firsthand.
And then watching all this stuff out west and through Florida, my heart goes out to those people.
Yeah, you guys have experienced that heartache firsthand. Noah, thank you and your Carissa and your family for the time and letting us come into your house and set up the podcast and film with you today. You guys have your own podcast coming up, right? You guys were just telling me that earlier.
We're planning on starting one, so
there you go.
We're going to join in with everybody else.
The Snyder Wisdom. So make sure you guys tune in for that as well. Be praying for these guys. Amazing heroes of the faith, and you guys have been such amazing role models in Christian surfers.
Thank you.
I know that you guys know that. So God bless you guys. We love you guys, and thanks for all that you guys do.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
See you guys soon. Great job, buddy.